king of the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
Muhammad Ali is unarguably the greatest boxer of all time. However, that is just one of his many labels. He is also referred to as a humanitarian, a poet, and someone who stood up for what he believed in. He is without a doubt one of the most influential athletes of all time. Muhammad Ali was born Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. on January 17, 1942 in Louisville, Kentucky. He was always a proud person, to say the least. At the age of 12, his bike was stolen. He complained to Officer Joe Martin, saying that he would whoop the person who stole it. Martin responded by bringing Clay to a local boxing gym. Clay was very dedicated to training. He went on to win several Golden Glove titles and a national AAU title. At the age of 16, Clay introduced himself to Angelo Dundee, his future boxing trainer.
Louisville, Kentucky. I was there with Willie Pastrano in 1958. Got a call from the lobby, and the kid said, my name is Cassius Marcellus Clay. I'm Gold Glove champ of the Loop, Gold Glove champ of Chicago. I won the gloves in Seattle. I want to talk to you. So I told Willie there's somebody downstairs, and he says, well, let him come up. TV wasn't good.
In 1960, at the age of 18, Clay won an Olympic gold medal in the light heavyweight division.
Which one gave you the most trouble?
Well, the last fight, the boy from Poland, he was...
Petrakowski, I believe.
Yes,
that's close.
He was real determined, and it's hard to beat a guy when you reach the final bout, because it's hard to beat a guy when he has his mind made up that he wants to win. So he was the roughest boy, but for the first 2 rounds, I had a little trouble getting started.
On October 29, 1960, Cassius won his first professional bout against Tony Hunsaker by unanimous decision. Several months later, in 1961, Clay became a Muslim, and in 1962, he met Malcolm X in a Detroit mosque. Malcolm X, at the time, was a minister in the Nation of Islam, and influenced Clay to join the nation before he officially announced it in 1964. In addition, the press failed to notice that Clay was wearing a dark suit and bow tie, which is how members of the Nation of Islam wore their attire. From late 1963 to early 1964, the hype for the Clay-Liston fight was rising and heating up. The American public had never seen an African American so outspoken before.
My New Year's revolution is to knock out that big ugly bear, shake up the whole world in 1964, and talk no more.
On February 25, 1964, Clay defeated Liston by way that Liston did not get up to fight the 7th round.
This is why I'm hot.
Well, it's great. Well, you see, the thing about the Liston fight, nobody gave him a chance. But it proved that certain people beat certain people. And if Muhammad didn't come along, nobody would have beat Liston because he was the best. And Muhammad just had the style to beat.
I'm great. I don't have a mark on my face. Yeah. And I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest.
The next day, Clay shocked the country again by formally declaring membership in the Nation of Islam and changed his name to Cassius X. 12 days later, he changed his name again to Muhammad Ali.
That's the name given to me by my leading teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's my original name. That's a black man name. Cassius Clay was my slave name. I'm no longer a slave.
In January of 1964, Ali failed the Armed Forces qualifying test and was unfit to serve unless an emergency. Ali at this point did not worry about Vietnam and went on to defend his title 9 more times. In February of 1966, Ali was reclassified to be fit to serve. Ali filed for conscientious objector status on basis that he was a Muslim minister and was later denied. On April 28, 1967, Ali refused to step forward to serve and was arrested and fined $10,000. Ali stated that the war was against his beliefs and said, "I ain't got no quarrel with the Viet Cong." This action shocked the country and put Ali in a negative light. Also, these actions forced the WBA to strip him of his title and his boxing license revoked. After a 3-year hiatus and 2 boxing victories in 1970, Ali was on his way to fight Joe Frazier for the heavyweight title.
It was a very, very exciting time for me. My dad came out of the blue and said, "Hey, I got 2 tickets for us to go see Ali Frazier at Madison Square Garden." The night of the event, the place was packed. It was rocking. There were people all over the place. Scalpers selling tickets, people trying to buy tickets, people with tickets trying to get in. A ton of limousines outside the Garden along 7th Avenue. It was like the Super Bowl for the time. I remember being pushed in through the through the gates as we gave our tickets. Our seats were not very good, pretty much about 2/3 the way up. It was just an exciting place to be, and the excitement just built and built as we waited for the main event. I do remember near the end of the fight, Frazier knocking Ali down, and I think that's what changed the fight around. I think the most exciting time was waiting for the decision to be made. I was actually rooting for Ali. I was a fan, and I was a little bit surprised that he didn't win. But looking back, I think the right decision was made. But as a 12-year-old kid, I was rooting for Ali, and I thought he should have won. But I've seen the fight since several times, and I think the judges made the right decision.
Although Ali did not beat Frazier, he was found not guilty of draft evasion by the Supreme Court after an appeal was made years earlier. 11 bouts later, in March of 1973, Ali was upset by Ken Norton and suffered a broken jaw. He avenged the loss 5 months later.
Well, Ken Norton is a great. He's a heck of a human being, a nice guy. He had a style that gave Muhammad a problem. Certain guys give certain styles problems. That's boxing.
After evening the score with Joe Frazier in January of 1974, Ali was set up to fight the undefeated George Foreman later that year. This fight would be known as the Rumble in the Jungle.
And I'm going to fight George Foreman, knock him out. Ali, Ali.
He used a lot of psychological stuff on George Foreman. He had voodoo doctors show up, and they made dolls and they stuck pins in them, and they had George Foreman completely out of his element.
Well, the Foreman-Ali fight was something that nobody gave Ali a shot, and Foreman was an awesome fighter. And what happens in boxing, one guy can always beat the other guy.
Ali became victorious after knocking out Foreman at the end of the 8th round. This win surprised the public because of Ali's unusual strategy.
I stayed on the ropes. When I stay on the ropes, you think I'm doing bad. But I want all boxers to put this in the page of boxing. Staying on the ropes is a beautiful thing with a heavyweight.
The fight was good because he did the right thing. George Foreman never wanted past 6-7 rounds, and Ali knew it, and he knew enough to tire him out and then take advantage of it, and he fought the right fight.
About a year later, Ali would fight Joe Frazier for the 3rd and final time. This fight would be known as the Thriller in Manila. And again, Ali used antics to distract his opponent.
I'll be a thriller and a killer when I get the gorilla in Manila.
Well, that was really good. That was one of the best fights there ever was, with the two of them beating each other back and forth, and the fight was just a great fight.
After 14 brutal rounds of boxing, Ali won because of Frazier's trainer calling off the fight during the intermission of the 14th and 15th rounds. Ali was so exhausted after the fight that he fainted in the ring. Ali officially retired from boxing in December of 1981. Even though Ali was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 1984, his life did not come to a screeching halt. In 1990, Ali negotiated with fellow Muslim Saddam Hussein for the release of 14 U.S. soldiers that were held hostage. He also lit the flame at the Atlanta Olympics in 1996. Ali became a UN Messenger of Peace in 1998. In 2005, he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest civilian honor offered in the United States. He received the President's Award at the NAACP Image Awards.
When my back's against the ropes, I can feel it. I'm the world's greatest.
He was such a great human being. I called him the Pied Piper. Wherever he would go, we would draw people. And it got bigger and bigger as we went along. And the reason being because he was always nice to be around.
What would you like people to think about you when you've gone?
I'd like for them to say he took a few cups of love. He took 1 tablespoon of patience, 1 teaspoon of generosity, 1 pint of kindness. He took 1 quart of laughter, 1 pinch of concern, and then he mixed willingness with happiness. He added lots of faith.
And he stirred it up well. Then he spread it over a span of a lifetime, and he served it to each and every deserving person he met.
Muhammad Ali, thank you very much.